It was devastating to hear at the weekend another loss to human life through suicide. Sushant Singh Rajput, a famous Bollywood actor, a rising star in the industry, unfortunately took his own life. Reports seem to suggest it was down to depression, but obviously the full story will emerge in time. But it's yet another person, another young male taking his own life. And I think it's really important to be able to talk about two things here as we are trying to understand what happened to him, and also when we're trying to understand what happens, particularly to young men, when they decide to take their life. If somebody is going to commit suicide, it takes a process from having the initial thought of wanting to end their lives to then triggering the emotional response, which will then influence a decision as to if they're going to take their life, how they're going to do it. And then invariably, it could lead to a very, very horrible and tragic outcome. It's really important that we understand that this process, it can end up very viciously, as it has in the case of Sushant Singh Rajput. But also, if we understand this process and we also tune in to how we are interacting in this process of thoughts, emotions, feelings, decisions, actions, and consequences, then we will have a better understanding of how human behavior and human behavior which influences action and how that all works and how it all ties up. So somebody deciding to do a virtuous act will require positive thoughts, and then the emotions will then come into play and then will lead to the right decisions for them to do whatever they have to do to benefit themselves or their businesses or their families, etc., etc. But when someone has that thought, if those thoughts are not managed, it could then lead to the behavior and the consequences that we've seen at the weekend with this particular young man. He had everything to live for. He was a rising star of Bollywood. He was successful. He was famous. He had everything going for him. And it just goes to show that it doesn't really matter what a person amasses from the external world. What really matters at the end of the day, because we're all human beings here, is what is going on in our minds. If we are not understanding the power of our thoughts and how our thoughts can lead to decisions which work against us or can serve us powerfully, then it really means that if we're not harnessing that power, then we are really losing a trick in terms of us calling ourselves human beings or trying to practice humanity. It's really important that we are all aware of this process, either for ourselves and also of other people. So this brings me on to the second thing that we need to be aware of, as well as process, in terms of how behavior is determined and actions, but also in terms of communication, in terms of speaking, in terms of being able to communicate with either yourself verbally or through writing, through journal writing, or speaking to somebody else, a trusted person, so they know exactly what you are thinking and what you are feeling and what you are contemplating and considering. Because trust me, depression is treatable and suicide is definitely preventable. But it all takes the immense courage, regardless of how bad a situation a person is actually in, to be able to just listen to the intuitive voice in their heads, allow it to just cut through the egoic voice, which is there to keep us safe or there to keep us in a situation where, for example, somebody contemplating suicide, for them safety might be not being in this world. Okay, so it's about trying to have a dialogue between the intuitive voice and the egoic voice. And please, no matter how bad the situation is, just take a moment, be still, get a grip of your breath, just breathe, just take in some deep breaths. I like to do chill seeker breathing with my clients, just for them to be able to become centered and to gain equilibrium with that point they can then decide what they want to do next. Even if it means breaking your state in terms of anchoring, you just do something else. Just do something totally different to what you're doing, just to break the state, just to break that process, which is then motivating you to do something that really is just so devastating. So please, it's so important that if you are feeling down, unhappy, or if you are considering taking a step which nobody should ever have to take, which is going to leave loved ones completely devastated, please do listen to what I'm saying. Open up to yourself, particularly to somebody else that you trust and you love. And it doesn't matter, no matter how bad the thoughts are, everything can be looked at, everything can be explored, everything can be examined. And then once that is opened out into the universe, that person will feel unburdened to a large extent. Also, that energy will go out there, somebody will respond. And obviously, from what I heard this weekend, the devastating news of this up and coming rising Bollywood star who had the world literally at his feet, for him to leave this earth in the way that he has, and leaving his family and his fans completely devastated, it's something that we've all got to think about. We should never blame anybody for taking that step. It was their personal decision and they did what they felt was right at that point in time. But we're all living in the now. Whatever happened to Sushant Singh Rajput is now in the past, still recent past, but it is going to be confined to history at some point once we understand what actually happened to this man and we can learn the lessons from it. But the lessons can be learned right now for all of us to be present, to be fully aware of our thoughts and to manage those thoughts. And if some of you would like to discuss any thoughts that you're having at the moment, which could lead you to a vicious path rather than a virtuous one, do not hesitate. Direct message me and we will have a chat. Just reach out to me, okay? That's really important. I just do not want to see, I don't want to hear another young man killing himself and it causing so much pain and distress for everybody. So please, pass this video on to other people. As I said before, direct message me, or you can put a post against this post, or you've got my contact details on my profile. Just reach out. Okay, thank you and God bless.